Recently, several of my friends, regardless of gender or age, whether they're my peers or in their early 20s, have all developed a passion for motorcycles. One close friend just bought a 250 cubic centimeters motorcycle this year. They love motorcycles, and perhaps it's not just a passing interest. It might be the thrill of the speed that comes with the wind, the sense of freedom that breaks away from the constraints of everyday life. Coincidentally, the motorcycle industry is now riding the wave of electrification that I've been following for a while. This got me thinking, could the technology and business path of electric cars be replicated in the motorcycle industry? I want to clear up this question once and for all, so please bear with me as this will be a long discussion. To avoid sounding like I'm only promoting electric vehicles, let's start with the disadvantages. In theory, if we were to replace the internal combustion engine, IC, with electric motors, essentially, going from engines that cost as much as gold to electric motors that are much cheaper by weight, the unit price of horsepower should drop drastically. We've seen this principle play out perfectly in the car industry, where you can buy an electric car with a 0 to 100 km per hour acceleration time of 3.x seconds for around $30,000, making V8 engines seem like a joke. So, shouldn't the same happen with motorcycles? Perhaps, but we're still in the very early stages. Right now, at least, high performance or large displacement, electric motorcycles are still quite expensive. For example, Harley-Davidson Livewire, the latest S2DL model has 80 horsepower, a 0 to 100 km per hour time of 3.5 seconds, and a range of 160 kilometers. The price overseas is around $16,500. In China, you need to pay more to get this. BMW CE04, with a maximum of 42 horsepower, a 0 to 50 km per hour time of 2.6 seconds, and a range of 130 kilometers, the performance is lower, but the design is very futuristic. The standard version costs about $20,000, and the Pro version is around $22,500. Damon Hypersport, the original version costs around $40,000, with the entry-level SE priced at $17,000 and the SX version at $20,000. When imported to China, the price is likely to exceed $28,000. The SX model offers 150 horsepower and a range of 240 kilometers. Dafengqi DC100, a rare domestic player with 135 horsepower, 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in just a few seconds, and a range of 400 kilometers, NEDC. The price is $24,000. Considering its high specifications, this price is relatively affordable for a high-performance electric motorcycle. What kind of gasoline motorcycle can you buy for $30,000? It's not just a high purchase price. Maintenance and repairs can also be a hassle. In theory, electrification should drastically reduce maintenance costs, as we've seen with electric cars. However, electric motorcycles are still at a stage where they are quite expensive to touch. Range and charging are not isolated issues, they need to be considered together. If charging were convenient, a shorter range wouldn't be much of a problem. Last year, I wrote several articles about long-distance electric vehicles, and critics flooded the comment section with arguments. But as the charging infrastructure has steadily improved, consumers have voted with their feet. In March 2022, the penetration rate of new energy vehicles reached 30%, a truly staggering number. Electric motorcycles have limited space, so their range is naturally shorter than that of cars. But considering the physical limits of humans riding motorcycles, unlike driving cars, a shorter range isn't a big issue. For example, the Dafengqi DC100 has a NEDC range of 400 kilometers. Even if we have that, it still offers 200 kilometers, which is enough for most enthusiasts who don't plan on riding non-stop without a break. The real issue is the inconvenience of charging. Regardless of how fast the charging speed is advertised, if you can't use the car charging stations along the service areas, it's a problem. Would you really ask a shop to lend you an extension cord to charge your bike? It would be too awkward. Car-level DC and AC charging ports. Harley-Davidson live-wire charging port, which is incompatible with car chargers. If electric motorcycles could be compatible with car charging stations, it would be a huge boost for the infrastructure development, and the range issue would become less critical. Of course, if you're an enthusiast planning to ride for a long way, you might still need a gasoline motorcycle. That's because a gas motorcycle can add an extra fuel tank to extend its range, but an electric bike can't just add an extra battery pack. It's unsafe and too heavy. Once you remove the internal combustion engine, electric motorcycles lose that mechanical roar, and this is a fact. But I believe that the true soul of riding a motorcycle lies in feeling the wind rush past your ears, not the mechanical roar. The roar is just a high-performance badge, not the essence of motorcycling. That mechanical sound is more of a hindrance, preventing you from taking your bike to the park without drawing attention. Over time, just like how people who have driven electric cars increasingly dislike the noise of internal combustion engines, the symbolic soul of that roar will fade away and become a relic of history. Now that we've covered the disadvantages, I can finally talk about the advantages. In the automotive world, why do people feel that 6-cylinder, 8-cylinder, or even 12-cylinder engines are superior to 4-cylinder ones? And don't even get me started on 3-cylinder engines. They shake like an earthquake. It's not just about more power, it's also about smoother power delivery and better sound quality, less noise. Motorcycles are the same. While 4-cylinder engines may be hot and uncomfortable, wealthy riders still prefer them over 2- or 3-cylinder engines. Not only is the power better, but the power delivery is smoother, and the sound is also more pleasant, although smoothness isn't a common term in motorcycle discussions. So, what would it be like if we could achieve instant power delivery and ultimate smoothness? To answer that, let's look at a comparison from the automotive world. Whether it's starting or mid-range acceleration, the power response of an electric motor is faster, more stable, and more linear. In other words, while the century-long development of internal combustion engines and transmission technology has been striving toward a standard answer, it still hasn't quite reached it. Meanwhile, electric motors, due to their inherent characteristics, deliver that standard answer immediately. While motorcycles don't require the same level of smoothness and comfort as cars, the significant advantages of electric drive are still directly felt. The problem is that high-performance electric motorcycles are still quite rare in China, and only a small number of people have experienced them. It's probably at the stage where the Tesla Model S was when it was first launched. Few users, so the benefits of electric motorcycles are still relatively underappreciated. As mentioned earlier, while high-performance electric motorcycles are still expensive, they will eventually become affordable. Technologically, there's no big mystery here. It just requires economies of scale, cost reduction, technological advancements, and a mature supply chain. Once upon a time, anyone with a gasoline car that could accelerate from 0 to 100 km per hour in 5 seconds would be admired for their wealth. Wow, they must have deep pockets. Today, if someone spends 200,000 renminbi, about $27,000, on a Tesla Model 3, nobody would bat an eye. Looking ahead, if electric motorcycles develop the same way electric cars have, it's not hard to imagine a future where motorcycle touring enthusiasts have access to inexpensive rider bikes, 1,000 cubic centimeters. If someone today spends 200,000 renminbi on a high-performance electric motorcycle, it's similar to early Tesla buyers who used their hard-earned money to help the industry progress. In this sense, we should be grateful to those who make such investments. I've driven my electric car for 75,000 kilometers. Roughly calculating, my total charging cost is around 5,000 renminbi, maintenance costs 2,500 renminbi, and I've replaced 4 Michelin PS4 tires for 5,500 renminbi. That comes to less than 20 cents per kilometer, far cheaper than a gasoline car. A comparable gasoline car would cost several times more per kilometer. The same goes for motorcycles. Electrification will drastically lower operating costs. This brings an additional benefit. Buying a high-performance electric motorcycle for daily commuting can eliminate the need to worry about fuel expenses. The use case goes beyond just commuting. There are many other scenarios to consider. For example, in winter, you don't need to warm up the engine, you can just start and go. Plus, with zero pollution and noise, you can silently follow your owner with Smart Follow functionality. When you go running in the park, you can even walk the motorcycle. Gasoline motorcycles could technically do the same, but the engine noise limits their usability and experience. When a vehicle can serve multiple purposes and adapt to many different use scenarios, doesn't that make the money spent feel much more worthwhile? Take Audi's Quattro all-wheel drive system, which gained fame in the automotive world. It was once a competitive advantage that independent brands could hardly match. The system used an independent electronic hydraulic system to assist the original powertrain. Fast forward to the electric age, and Audi's Quattro has evolved into the e-Quattro system, which still offers an advantage, but it's no longer as dominant as it once was. Similarly, BYD has introduced the ITC, Intelligent Torque Adaptation Control, system, which leverages the distributed and quick response features of electric drive systems to achieve similar benefits. Some media outlets have exaggerated it as a downward strike by BYD in the electric era, but to be fair, it has definitely allowed them to catch up and narrow the gap with competitors. It's a great example of how electric technology can provide a competitive edge in ways that gasoline-powered vehicles simply can't. Take the example of hill descent control, HDC, a feature typically found only in luxury gasoline cars, but one that is easily achievable in electric vehicles. The HDC system works by controlling the vehicle's speed when descending a steep slope, ensuring smooth and controlled descents. The same principle applies to motorcycles. Initially, the focus may just be on swapping the powertrain, but over time, electric motorcycles can easily develop various technological features like this. Due to limitations in the transmission system, front-wheel drive gasoline motorcycles are quite rare. However, after the widespread adoption of electric powertrains, it's very likely we'll see rear-wheel drive electric motorcycles with a small hub motor in the front wheel. This would greatly enhance off-road capabilities and could soon be available to the general public. Similarly, most motorcycles lack a reverse gear, but adding reverse functionality to an electric motorcycle is a simple task. For example, the Mid-Jet Armor electric dirt bike features a reverse gear, allowing riders to easily reverse in narrow or challenging terrain, enhancing maneuverability and safety. After discussing the advantages and disadvantages, let's summarize the situation. Long-term optimism. In the long run, the advantages of electric motorcycles far outweigh those of gasoline motorcycles. The future is very bright. Short-term pessimism. In the short term, electric motorcycles are expensive, have short ranges, and face charging difficulties. The current disadvantages are substantial, and the long-term advantages aren't yet visible. So, it seems the situation isn't looking too good at the moment. The advantages are significant, but they are for the future, not for today. If we never reach that future, what's the point of discussing long-term advantages? After all, we live in the present. So, the critical question is, what is the viable commercial path that can transition us from short-term disadvantages to long-term advantages? To answer this, let's look back at the history of electric vehicles. In 2008, the challenges faced by electric vehicles were even greater than the challenges electric motorcycles face today. Batteries were incredibly expensive. The range was extremely short. Charging was a major hassle. At that time, two distinctly different strategies emerged to overcome these obstacles, minimizing the shortcomings, controlling costs. This approach was to focus on keeping costs low and minimizing the negative aspects. Since batteries were expensive, manufacturers would use fewer batteries to reduce costs, even sacrificing some performance. The design and features of the car would also be kept basic to save power and keep the price down. Most car manufacturers followed this path, and the best example of this approach is the Nissan Leaf. Maximizing performance and appeal. The second strategy was to disregard the high cost of batteries and go all out on performance and features, even if it meant driving up costs. The goal was to fully maximize the advantages of the three key electric vehicle components: the battery, motor, and control system. This strategy led to the creation of high-end, luxury electric vehicles, and the only company that pursued this approach was Tesla. To be honest, back around 2010, when I first heard about Tesla's strategy, I didn't fully understand it. But as the story unfolded, we all saw what happened. Tesla succeeded spectacularly. They initially attracted early adopters and tech enthusiasts with high-priced luxury cars, which led the industry forward. As the supply chain matured, Tesla was able to bring down the price and expand the range, acceleration, and design features of the Model S, which were then passed on to the Model 3 and Model Y. These vehicles became the most successful electric cars, helping Tesla reach $1 trillion market cap. Electric motorcycles can also follow similar paths. One route would be the gradual upgrade of electric bikes, with around 10 kilowatts of power, which is a bit stronger than electric bicycles but still far from the level of large displacement motorcycles. The other route is to push performance to the limit, focusing on four core elements: horsepower, range, charging, and smart features. Among the latter group, China's new force, Dafengqi DC100, has taken this path to the extreme. Let's take a quick look at its performance in the four key areas. Dafengqi DC100. Horsepower, 100 kilowatts of power, 135 horsepower, and a maximum torque of 850 Newton meters. The 0 to 100 km per hour acceleration time is around 3 seconds, comparable to large displacement motorcycles. Range. The DC100 has a range of 400 km, NEDC, or 357 km, WLTP. This is much higher than the Harley-Davidson Livewire's 160 km, BMW CE04's 130 km, and Damon Hypersport SX's 240 km. The NEDC and WLTP are standard automotive energy consumption tests, so when applied to motorcycles, the range numbers are more realistic. Charging, perhaps even more impressive than the range, is the DC100's charging capability. It's compatible with automotive DC fast chargers, meaning it can charge from 0% to 100% in just 30 minutes. This opens up a massive advantage. Whenever you find an EV charging station, you can charge your bike. In contrast, Harley-Davidson Livewire, BMW CE04, and Damon Hypersport SX don't support automotive chargers, which feels like a lack of thorough innovation. This makes you think about the differences between traditional car manufacturers and the new players. In the electric vehicle revolution, intelligence, the DC100 has a high degree of information integration, laying the foundation for technological features like reverse assist, hill assist, self-balancing, automatic following, multiple sport modes, and photo updates. From a product and technical standpoint, Dafengqi is clearly innovating along the lines of automotive technology, which is a familiar approach for many in the industry. Is it reasonable to draw comparisons between the electrification of motorcycles and the electrification of cars? I think we need to consider both advantages and disadvantages. Cars are a basic necessity, and carbon neutrality is a global imperative. Although electric cars have faced significant challenges, they eventually gained momentum due to strong industry incentives in China, the US, and Europe. In contrast, motorcycles are not as essential as cars, which means the need for electrification isn't as urgent. The electrification of cars has driven advancements in technology, talent, and supply chains, and all of this can be applied to electric motorcycles. For example, the 17.7 kilowatt-hour battery used in a DC100 would have been much larger and more expensive just 10 years ago. This shows that the development of electric motorcycles can benefit greatly from the rapid progress in the electric vehicle sector. If the advantages of electric motorcycles only become apparent in the long term, then shouldn't we appreciate the contributions of those pioneers who have burned themselves to advance the industry? For traditional companies like BMW, Honda, Harley-Davidson, and Damon, their established positions allow them to weather the transformation. But for new players like Dafengqi, is it the right time to enter the market? Let's look at this from two perspectives. Just as the electric vehicle market opened up opportunities for Tesla, NIO, and Li Auto during the electrification revolution, electric motorcycles also present new opportunities for entrants during this transformation. If you don't join now, you might miss the chance forever. Moreover, electric motorcycles are primarily aimed at replacing high-displacement motorcycles, a market segment that has been growing rapidly in recent years. From 2014 to 2019, this segment experienced a compound annual growth rate of 61%, creating a solid foundation for new companies to develop in this space. Building cars isn't as easy as it might seem, though it's certainly not simple, and building motorcycles is even more so. However, for new entrants, if they can push for extreme innovations in their products, not only can they establish brand recognition, but they also have the potential to lead the industry in terms of technology. Take Tesla as an example. They have led the way in technologies such as the 2170 and 4680 cylindrical battery cells, structural battery integration, battery and body combined, and centralized electronic architecture. These innovations have defined the direction of the industry. Similarly, I believe the electric motorcycle, e-motorcycle, sector still has vast room for technological advancement. For instance, the integration of the battery and the vehicle body not only reduces weight but also frees up valuable space. This is an area where there is yet to be a true leader to set the technological direction. A case in point is the DC Classic high-end version, which provides a glimpse into the current status of battery cell and vehicle body integration in the electric motorcycle industry. Summary of electric motorcycle and fuel motorcycle comparison. Now, back to the initial question. Will fuel motorcycles be replaced by electric motorcycles? I have three key points of view. Long-term advantages are clear. Comparing the technological advantages and disadvantages of fuel versus electric motorcycles, it's clear that electric motorcycles have the upper hand. Their drawbacks are acceptable, and over time, electric motorcycles will gradually and partially replace fuel motorcycles, especially in the large displacement segment. The path will be bumpy. Tesla's development wasn't without its struggles. The company faced bankruptcy threats several times. Technological development is full of uncertainties. The electric car trend started in the 1990s, but it wasn't until 2016 that it became an irreversible trend. Similarly, while the future of electric motorcycles looks promising, many unknown factors remain. The market could evolve in unexpected ways, and there are still many challenges ahead. Window of opportunity for new entrants. The electrification transformation phase represents the best window of opportunity for new players to enter the market. Adopting a focus on strengths strategy is far better than the shrink weaknesses approach. By leading with extreme innovation and pushing the boundaries, new entrants can carve out a unique space in the market, much like Tesla did with electric cars. The key to success in this phase is to capitalize on the shift towards electrification and leverage it for competitive advantage.